Hello and welcome to this episode of Focus On with me, Gyamo Musibili. Now, the brain economy is an economic belief system that underpins brain health as a key economic driver. Now, according to the World Economic Forum, brain disorders are an estimated cost of $5 trillion per year. Now, to unpack this phenomena further, I'm joined by two experts at the 2025 Global Health G20 Global Health Ministerial Meeting. And I am joined by Kana Inamoto and George Vradenberg. Lady, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We are at this side event leading up to the G20, and there has been quite extensive talks about the phenomena of brain health, but its contributor as a key economic driver. So I'd like to just begin from the top, just from today's proceedings. Over to you, George. You gave a talk about the plans in place, but just tell us a little bit about some of the plans you have in place to explore brain health in further exploration.
We're announcing at this conference today a 6-point, 5-year plan on brain health in Africa. And the belief is that given the demographic changes in the world, Africa is going to lead in the supply of new workers around the world, but also importantly in Africa. So that focusing very much on the young people of Africa, as well as the old people, across the life course, we're going to be able to bring brain power to Africa and to its economic growth in the 21st century.
Sure. And just continuing on that, you made mention of the Africa Brain Health Task Force and its action plan. Just also quickly walk us through that.
Well, it has a number of elements. 6x5 is what we're calling it, 6 priorities over 5 years. Part of it is like health literacy. Unfortunately, people in Africa still believe in many instances that dementia is a natural cause of aging or indeed occupation by the devil. That in fact this is a phenomenon that should be fearful and the like. It is not. It is a disease. It's a disease of the brain that, like other diseases, can be addressed, cured, and treated. But it's also building new kinds of infrastructure, AI and machine learning built that enable us to be able, across the continent, to be able to detect cognitive impairments or cognitive performance and brain power, and to be able to deliver virtually, from a distance, interventions which can improve your brain across the life course.
Quite interesting, and kind of this is where I really want you to weigh in. The MC of the event, Fifi Peters, also made mention of the fact that brain health is not necessarily a priority when seen as one of the major areas of improvement when building a sustainable economy. So I guess backtrack for us, what is brain health in the collective sense, and why is it important?
Right. It's a great question, and most people don't really understand how common these conditions are. Just for mental disorders, 1 out of 2 of us will have a mental disorder in our lifetime. And half of them will show up by the age of 14, 3/4 by the age of 24. And so mental and substance use disorders are diseases of the young, but then you look at neurological conditions which then have their onset peak at 60, 70, 80 years old. And so these are conditions that we have to think about across the lifespan. And not just disorders, but it's also the state of good health, right? So I've asked people, like, who has mental health? And sometimes people hesitate because they think that they don't have a mental disorder. But we actually all have mental health, right? Mental health is a state of well-being. It's a state of being able to deal with adversity, to overcome our challenges, to form relationships. And so we all have mental health as a fundamental part of our well-being. And it is a driver, it's a central organizing factor in whether or not we can do well in school, we can have good relationships at home, we can be productive at work, and we can really feel that we are thriving and flourishing. And so when we don't have good brain health, it's also hard to have good physical health, it's hard to have good social health. And what we know is that people who have brain disorders also have higher levels of chronic disease. And so when we take it all together, a significant 1 out of 4 of disability-adjusted life years, or 1/4 of our global disability burden, is actually related to a brain disorder. And so that's why it is so important as an economic driver, right? It is a cost, but it's also this opportunity to be more productive and have a greater contribution factor.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting between the both of you. You've really unpacked a lot of misconceptions about brain health in particular. But I want to know, at today's event, why is it particularly being framed as an economic issue or something that is deserving of attention on the long list of economic issues that we face in Africa?
Well, you know, as George mentioned, we are undergoing a transformation with AI, with automation. We've gone, you know, there was an industrial age and now we're in an intelligent age. And AI is changing the way we think about our work, the way we think about how we deal with each other, and it can have both strengths as well as risks for us. And so as we think about how to navigate the new workplace and future-proofing Africa, it's important that we think about how our brains are both adapting to the new world, as well as we're fostering the skills that are needed to be successful in a workplace that is driven by technology.
Yeah, George, I actually would like to piggyback off of Kana's sentiments about future-proofing Africa. And would you be able to give us a global perspective on where we are in terms of investing into this particular issue?
Well, Kana's remarks reminded me of the proposition that we're now spending in the United States alone $400 billion of investment in artificial intelligence, simply to get to a place where machines can perform the same thing as a 3-pound object in our brain that is powered by less than a light bulb. And you think to yourself, why aren't we investing in understanding the brain as well as understanding artificial intelligence, human intelligence alongside artificial intelligence? Because only if we do that and not regard AI as displacing humanity will we really understand the power of the combination of artificial and human intelligence. So we're urging the economic argument, which is where politicians live, where finance ministers live. The economic argument is invest in a much more efficient thing called the human brain, as well as and alongside of the artificial brain.
Yeah. But then where do the risks lie in this current environment where it seems we're struggling in terms of the trade-off of investing in human capital versus the more convenient, cost-effective option, which is artificial intelligence?
Well, the risk is that, in fact, we begin to displace people from work. And that means that there's going to be a lack of social development, a lack of humanity in the systems that we're building for the future. When we were enamored of globalization in the late 90s and the globalized trade, it displaced so many people in manufacturing jobs in the United States and Europe. The internet itself and social media has caused a significant increase in suicides among young men and young women. So we have to think now about the social displacement that might occur if we ignore the human brain while we're investing in artificial intelligence. So this is a critical factor for humanity, but also for economics, because we should not think that the future is one of machines. We should think that the future is still got humans in it. So let's invest in human intelligence alongside artificial intelligence.
And I guess my next question is for the both of you. The G20 summit is almost here towards the end of this month. And this is one of the side events in the lead up to that big event. And it is understood here that it is not only just South Africa's moment, but largely Africa's moment to truly express some of the issues that we are facing on the continent. So taking into context today, what is the significance of the G20 in relation to brain health?
Well, from my point of view, the G20 centered in Africa and centered in South Africa, confronting an Africa that over the next 20 to 30 years may produce tens of millions of young people going into a workforce, that we ought to be investing in those young people and their brain power, because that is going to be powerful to the development of Africa socially and economically. So for the G20, the message is invest in humans and humanity and the human brain power alongside artificial brain power.
Yeah, and your sentiments, Anna?
I think the G20 provides an opportunity for global leaders to signal the centrality of investing in brain skills, in fostering the brain health of people in Africa, on the continent, and beyond. If we have half of the global workforce will be from the continent, then we need to make sure that they can think at the pace of change, that they have the creativity, the flexibility, the adaptability to work in a future where the skills that are needed are ones that complement artificial intelligence with human intelligence.
Yeah, and in closing, I guess also a forward-looking a statement I would like from both of you. You've spoken extensively about the opportunities on the African continent and the youth potential that lies here. So going forward, what are the opportunities that lie ahead for Africa's young population?
You know, one of the things that we know young people in Africa want is meaningful work. And the opportunity that is opening up is that work is no longer bound by a place. It is no longer bound by a product, that our work is going to become global, and that they will have the opportunity, or they are having the opportunity now to contribute not just on the continent but around the world in work that is creative, that is impactful, and that is forward-looking.
Yeah, and yourself, George, I guess I'd also like to know how much of, or how important is brain health in relation to a growing and burgeoning young population in Africa?
Well, just think of a young person growing up in the rural areas of South Africa with despair, with lack of hope, lack of nutrition, and a lack of opportunity, versus a young person in South Africa in the rural community who grows up with hope and purpose and the capacity to make a contribution to their own lives, to their family, and to the future. That is a different Africa. That is a different way of thinking about life as an African in rural and poor areas. And poverty and socioeconomic status is one of the determinants of whether or not you have brain power. So let us give power back to the people, probably in Mandelian terms, right? And bring forward the youth of Africa to contribute to the world.
Well, there's certainly lots we could unpack just on this very interesting topic. That's unfortunately where we have to leave it. Thank you so much to both of you for your time, and all the best with the rest of today's event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's how we wrap up this episode of Focus On at the Radisson Blu in Johannesburg. From me, Giamo Musabile, and the rest of the CNBC Africa team, it's goodbye for now.